Hi everyone, it's Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. I am always in local thrift shops looking for high-end style home decor for a whole lot less than retail. But this week I actually want to show you a really simple project that you can do without even having to make a trip to the thrift store, just maybe a quick trip to your local hardware store. Stick around to see how amazing and easy this project can be. So I am sure that by now you have probably seen these antique style skinny benches everywhere from Studio McGee to Pottery Barn to Amber Lewis's shop. You can see lots of them on Etsy, and you can kind of see here that they run pretty high in a couple of hundreds of dollars for these handmade skinny benches that people are selling. But I also saw all over Pinterest how you can also DIY these yourself, so I'm diving into that today. The first thing I need to do, since we don't have a whole lot of spare lumber already at our house, is make a trip to Lowe's. So for this bench I used one 2x6 and one 2x2, and that cost me less than $10, as you can see. So with the 2x6, that was just my seat. I had them cut it for me at 5 feet. It was easier to transport home that way. And then I used the 2x2 for all the legs and the little cross pieces. So there's 4 legs, each one at 18 inches, and 2 cross pieces at 6 inches. All the angles are 15 degrees. And I like to remember this because all the legs, the angles all looked like windshield wipers facing the same direction, and all for the cross pieces, the angles were like yay arms going outward, if that helps you to remember. So I don't have a fancy miter saw or anything to cut the angle perfectly for me, but I'm just using a protractor. I bought this one on Amazon, but you may have a protractor already at home. Just anything to help you find a 15-degree angle. With this kind, you just line it up on the 15-degree mark, and the resulting inside piece there is your 15-degree angle. So you can trace this directly onto the wood that you're going to be cutting, or what I decided to do was take some cardstock and make myself just a little quick template, because I felt like it was easier to trace a sharp point onto the wood when I use the cardboard template instead of trying to trace inside the actual protractor. So you can do it either way. Just get a 15-degree angle on each leg, as the diagram showed earlier, and make one cut each to create your legs. Here my husband is doing the cuts for me while I'm filming, but it only takes him maybe 1 minute to make all the cuts. And so these are all of the pieces finished and ready to put together. You can see the 4 legs and the 2 cross pieces that are 6 inches each, and then the bench itself. So I'm just pre-drilling every hole and then putting my screw in. I think it's important to pre-drill on these because your wood can split kind of easily if you're just trying to drive the screws straight in. So I didn't do any fancy pocket holes or anything like that like some of the other DIYs. I just screwed at an angle directly from the leg into the seat, and that's because this is going to be a largely decorative piece for me. I'm not going to be standing on this, or it's not going to have to support any huge weight, so this is perfectly fine. It's pretty stable like it is this way. So as you can see, I'm putting it about 4 inches in from the edge of each seat. You can adjust that to your liking, but that's just what I chose to do. And you could see that I used my little cross piece to kind of just hold up there and make sure that I had them in exactly the right spot where the cross piece would fit between each. It was pretty simple, and I think once you get started with this, it's a very beginner-friendly project. So the most important thing I'm saying again is just that you should pre-drill a hole for each screw before you put it in. That definitely made it a lot easier. And I'm just putting as many screws in each leg as I feel like I need for it to feel stable, and it's not jiggling around anymore. It feels nice and steady. On all of these legs, I think I ended up doing 3 screws each, just kind of on the inside pieces and not on the very outside. Now at this stage, I don't have my cross pieces attached yet, but I went ahead and got started on the fun part. I also purchased this wire brush set for a drill, and you can use just a hand wire brush for this, but this does make it so much faster. I'm using a drill with it and just kind of more effect quicker than doing it by hand, but you don't have to have this. But this was just a really fun tool to use. I like the way you kind of just hold it still and it really drags through the wood and makes these kind of deep marks that end up looking really pretty on the final piece. I also just used my hammer that I had on hand. I used the front side. I also turned it around and used the claw side, as you can see me kind of like chipping away at the edges there and also dragging it to make like some deep cuts throughout the wood. So just whatever you have on hand, you just want to really beat up this wood. And I would say when you think you've antiqued it enough, do like double or triple that amount, because you really need a lot of antiquing for it to make a big effect once you're done. I went over this lots of times with this wire brush and really held it, like I said, in one spot for a while and made sure the gouges were getting nice and deep. Went all over the sides, the legs, and I really enjoyed also doing the kind of deep scratches with the hammer claw. So here's how it's starting to look when I'm almost done antiquing. You can see the different marks that I made, and there's really no right or wrong here. You just want to really beat it up. And then the next day, since I was renewed energy, I actually went back and did some more. So you can see here I'm kind of chipping away at the edges to kind of round them out some more. I'm just using a paint scraper there actually, because I don't have a chisel set, but I will link to one on Amazon if you would like to get a chisel set. They're not very expensive either. I went back and did more with my wire brush. I just kept going back and forth until I was happy with the final result. And then once you're done with all of your antiquing and you feel comfortable with that, you want to sand the whole thing. You can do it by hand. I'm using an orbital sander since we already have one, but you just want to go back over it and make everything nice and smooth. So I am finished up with this after I've gone back and added even more distressing. I think I'm good with it now. I love the deep lines that wire brush on the drill made. I've added some more deep cuts. I've chipped away at the edges so that it's more rounded and not so rectangular, and I'm pretty happy with it now. So now it's time to stain it or color it, whatever I'm going to do. So I was planning on using Special Walnut liquid stain, and I can't find it anywhere, so I don't know what happened, but these are the options that I do have, so I'm going to try and just work with one of these. On a small little stool that I antiqued a while back, I just covered it with this dark vintage antiquing wax. Just that right on top of it. But I also have this slate colored gel stain. I have this briar smoke colored gel stain. And then I have this finishing wax in white that I could go over something with. So I'm just going to play around on a test piece of wood and see what combination I want to do. So I decided to go ahead and use this antiquing wax on this stool. This is the color Dark Vintage. And honestly, I probably would have preferred a liquid stain just to be able to get in the crevices better. But you can still do it with this antiquing wax, and I do think that this is a really, really nice color. So I just need to finish this up. I'm just applying it with a rag. Then I might do a dirt rub on this, but let me just keep going and see how this looks. So I just continue rubbing this in with the rag. It's not very difficult, although it takes a little bit of time to get it all over every nook and cranny. And this does dry to the touch. It's not sticky or anything like that. It actually dries pretty quickly. It's a nice product to use. Then I go ahead and do a dirt rub on it just for fun, kind of to see what difference it makes. It does kind of mattify the top, which I liked, and it adds a little touch of grayness. So you might choose to do that, or you might not. If you do, you can always give it a coat of sealing with maybe polyacrylic or some other clear coat that you have on hand. And this was really just as easy as that, and this is how it looks. I'm putting this at the foot of our king size bed in our master bedroom, so you can see how the 5-foot length of that works against a king size bed if you're considering this. I think that it's the perfect size, leaving a little space on either side. And I love how this looks by itself. I think that that's a great look, but I'm just going ahead and playing with it a little more. I'm just styling it on this side with this blanket that's from Pottery Barn, but I picked it up at Goodwill for $1.99, as well as a thrifted basket on the other end. And then just for another little touch, I'm putting this little 2-handled pot, also from Goodwill for $1.99, with some faux thyme that came from Pottery Barn initially, but also again from Goodwill, and that on the other side. And I think for me, this completes the look. And so this is my DIY skinny bench, you guys. I'm really proud of having made this myself as a beginner who hasn't done much with wood before. This was just my speed. So if that's you, I think that you can do this too. So I was just really happy with how this turned out. I'm glad that I went with the dark antique wax rather than some that were a little bit lighter like I was seeing, just because I think this makes more of a a statement and a focal point here when you first walk in the room to have this higher contrast against the bedding and the walls and such, and also ties in a little bit more with the darker bamboo shades that I have on the windows. So I'm just so happy that I went ahead and tried this. I think this was just my speed, so if that's you, this might be the right speed for you to try too. I didn't have any really fancy tools or anything, just a saw and a drill. And so I'm hoping that maybe some of you out there will want to try to make your own as well. So go back and screenshot the earlier screens with the sizes and the pieces needed if you want to make this exact bench, but you can also make this in any size, like maybe a smaller size to be used as a plant stand in another room, or a small bench to go beside like a chair or a sofa. That would also be really cute. So many possibilities with these little skinny benches, and they make such a pop and such a statement. That about wraps it up for today's video. I really hope that you've enjoyed it and maybe it's inspired you to try and make your own piece. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit like, leave me a comment, and go ahead and hit subscribe so you'll see more of them in your feed. And I will see you at the next video.